Hello again. In this video, I'm going to describe the error log file that is created by NewGene whenever NewGene experiences an error. So, for this example, I'm going to draw on an application that was used in a previous video, specifically the video on the GrowUp data. And for users who have already watched that video, you'll recall that there was an error produced when I tried to input the GrowUp data. And I had to make a correction to the file in order for the data to be properly installed. In that video, I did not show how I knew the nature of the error. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how that information is provided by the log error file. So, to start, I'm going to add a new variable group. And let's say that this is the procedure that I'm interested in doing in NewGene. So I'm adding a new variable group. As in the video where I used the GrowUp data, I'm going to call this GrowUp. And then I'm going to select the country, year, unit of analysis. It's going to say that it was successfully created. Now I'm going to import the data. So I'm going to choose the comma delimited file. I'm going to go to the desktop, and the file I'm going to use is the growup.csv file. I know from looking at this file that the country code indicator is indeed called C code, and that the year variable is called year, and there is no year end variable. I also know that there is a row of data that includes the data type, and that's going to be very important for this example. Again, data type being if it's an integer, a string, a float variable. I'm going to click OK. It's going to, of course, give me the warning that the year variable, year end option or space is left blank. That is totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and click Yes. And you can see that it's generated an error. Number of rows of data failed to read from import file, 8,752. And as I showed in the previous video when I was using the GrowUp data, there are 8,752 rows of data. So what this means is that every single row of data in the GrowUp CSV file failed to be imported into NewGene. Now, why is that? Well, there were messages during import. These will be appended to log newgene.import.log. What that means is that these data, or the information on why there were errors, can be found in that log file. What we've done is made it, and you can see here's another error, just again telling you that you can also go to newgene.import.log. What we've done is made it so that NewGene will place that file right here, newgene.import.log. It places it in the documents folder. And so NewGene will automatically generate this file, place it in the documents folder. You can then open this file to see what is the nature of the error or errors that prevented NewGene from performing the particular operation, in this case, importing data. But it could be any particular time that you have an error in NewGene, it can generate one of these files. So I'm going to open the file. Now, as you can see, it took a little bit for it to open. It opens as a text file, .txt file. And looking at it, you can see there's a lot of information here, and it's not very easy to see. But one of the first things to notice is, we're going to walk through this. One of the first things to notice is that it tells you the date and the time that the importation procedure was conducted. And it also tells you that there were messages during import. This is actually the exact same message that was reported by NewGene. and it tells you that the number, so again, you have the same error that was reported in Eugene. And so everything basically at the top here is the same as the error message that appeared in Eugene. So the details are going to be found below this. Now, you can look here and you can see that, okay, that looks like the data from the data set. That looks like the data from the CSV file. And we can verify that by actually going and opening the CSV file. And indeed, if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see, okay, Fiji, you can see right here, 950, Fiji 2013, there's a 2, a 0, 0, 2. If I move this over, I see 950 Fiji 2013 200 002. So this seems to match, this seems to be the final row of the data set. And indeed, that's exactly what's being reported here. It's saying skipping row 8754 in the input file. Well, if I look back at the CSV, that is indeed row 8754. So what it's telling me is that Nugene has decided to skip that file. Now why? It's telling me that it's decided to skip that file, and it's told me, and it's also telling me this is what was contained in that, or excuse me, not file, but that is what's contained in that row. These were the values. Why did it happen? Well, that's the next thing that it tells you. It says error reading data for line 8754, column 11. Specifically, invalid int32 data field from input file. What does that mean? Well, column 11, if we go back to this, column 1, of course, is column A. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So right away we can see that there's something different about this particular column in that the data have a decimal point. If we also go back here, we see that this says int32. What that is in reference to, that is in reference to the fact that we labeled that particular variable, which is the lpop variable, as we specify that it was an int type variable. But this is saying that it is not. It's invalid to be labeled as an int. Now, unfortunately, Nugene doesn't tell us what it should be labeled. That would be difficult. It would have to be able to read the nature of the data and then be able to tell you. That might be an extension we'll be able to add to future versions of Nugene. But for now, it at least tells you that it should not be specified as an int. Now, as it turns out in this case, since it's a decimal point, the next logical one would be it's likely supposed to be a float. And indeed, if you can recall from the video working with the grow up data, that was actually what needed to be done. This needed to be changed to float. You can see that column 11, it actually gives us this error quite a ways down. It gives us this, column 11 again. We can scroll down through here. So you can, actually what it's doing is it's going through all of the rows and giving us this error. But if we scroll down, we can see that eventually we'll find something that does not say column 11. So, for example, right here, it tells us that column 23 is also a problem. Well, which one is column 23? Well, this was column 11. We'll just go ahead and count. That's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Oh, well, we can see right here, this is actually a letter, and we've labeled it as an int. So that likely needs to be a string variable. So we need to change that. Once we've gone through this file and made all the changes that have been specified, then, as was shown in the video working with the grow-up data, Nugene will be able to properly upload these data. So the point of this video is to simply show how this log file can provide some guidance whenever you have an error. And of course, in the example I did here, this is in trying to input data, but that's just this particular example. Nugene will produce one of these log files whenever there's an error at any stage of working with the data in Nugene. Thank you.